This is Alicia Minto coming in from South Carolina.
Hey, what's going on, family? It's Chris K from New Jersey.
Hey, and it's your girl, Tasheen Poole, coming in from South Carolina.
We are bringing you real money talk.
From real people.
With real struggles on a real journey to financial freedom.
We are called to break down global economic concepts and ideas.
To help you grasp the realities of what's happening around you and how it impacts your livelihood.
So hear the red pill revelation from our perspective as thinkers, as we navigate through this twilight zone and what we can do in the now to protect ourselves.
We are the Real Money Entourage.
We are the Entourage.
We are the Real Money Entourage.
And we are, guys. Welcome to the Real Money Entourage. With your peeps. I think it's a little bit of a delay, but we're going to make it do what it do. We came to you last. Actually, we missed the show yesterday. Sorry about that. If you have been checking us out, we try to come on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But anyway, we're coming to you live today to piggyback off of the last episode that we did, which was a episode from The Hidden Secrets of Money, where we kind of digested episode 1. And so today, we're going to talk about episode 4, but before we get into that, we have a cute little video we want to show you before we get started. So if you give me a second to get that queued up for us, you just check that out. I really am pressing play. And can you guys see my screen?
And I just sold all of that junk.
Dude, you sold all our stuff for cash?
Cash? Why would a leprechaun want cash? I traded it for gold.
He's been overtaken by the leprechaun's lust for gold.
Yes, oh, shiny, shiny. But you can't have any. It's mine, all mine.
We don't want your gold, fool.
Well, you should. I'm getting us back on the gold standard.
What is exactly this golden standard?
It's the monetary system where paper money got value directly related to gold, you dummies. You tell me $1 is worth 25 and gold, or what? But that dirty President Nixon back in 71 unilaterally took the entire country off the center, and ever since it's been based on the dollar value on a freely floating exchange rate. Ah! The money ain't tied to a specific item of value, and it's all make-believe numbers and market manipulations. But now...
Okay, so, but now, it's it. That's it done. Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So guys, listen, that is, I'm not really familiar with that show, but Chris and Alicia shared with me Teen Titan, I believe is what it's called. Is that right? Where the kids show and they know more about the gold standard than we do. Listen, they're dropping clues and nuggets right throughout your kids' TV programming that they watch throughout the day. So guys, this is a clue. But anyway, we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to go off. I do want to tell you that we talked last about the store of value and what real money was. And we also talked about this. We talked about the 7 stages of an empire. We've heard of the Roman Empire back in the day. There are empires of monetary systems throughout history that we, of course, have forgotten. Well, we haven't forgotten. We just have never been taught. So we talked about that, and you can check that out on this page, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. But today, Alicia and Chris and myself are going to talk about the biggest scam in history. It's one of the biggest scams in history. Probably some stuff you didn't know, but when I came across the information, it literally made me quit my job. I'm not even gonna go there. Like I felt so violated, and it was just, I just had to go. So I'm gonna stop talking, and Alicia, I'm actually just gonna turn it over to you so you can bring the people what we got.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tashin. And yeah, just to piggyback real quick off of that Teen Titans cartoon, to me that is such an eye opener that our kids are, they're watching TV and they are dropping hints, and so you want to be mindful so that you're aware and you can be abreast as to what's happening in the world and clearly what your kids are watching. So if you saw that, that should have definitely been an indicator that gold is where it's at, not cash, in regards to building wealth into saving your sweat equity. So we're going to actually have a couple of parts to what we call currency creation. And of course, we've been getting a lot of our information over the last couple of episodes from the Hidden Secrets of Money. I definitely encourage everybody to look at that, go on YouTube. It's free information, free education. So definitely take a look at that. But we're going to talk about how currency is really created. And so it really starts with what we call glorified IOUs. The government creates these glorified IOUs. They feel they have a need and a purpose for something. And so they basically are creating bonds, okay? And those bonds are basically loans, if you will. Um, you understand where we're going, Chris, with this right here? How they're just
You sound like a
thing?
you sound like a car, like say for instance, like a car, like if I wanted to go purchase a vehicle from like a car dealer, that's what you saying, like a glorified loan is something like my credit.
Exactly. Exactly. It is your credit. It's you trying to acquire something really with your credit in a standing that you have. Absolutely. So the second part, so that's really one. There's this glorified IOUs that are created. We're literally talking like just paper receipts, if you will. And then we go into what happens next, because it does it gets better and better. So they're swapping these IOUs to big bankers, right? Investors. So they need someone to want to acquire these bonds or these IOUs, okay? And then the bankers, well, they're like, I don't want this piece of paper, so I need to go to the Federal Reserve to have money created.
Created. That's so crazy. Wait. Before we continue, before we go on, that part right there, guys, that's it. It was just created. But I want to back up a little bit because I do not want us to, first of all, we are real people. We talked about that at the beginning. So please don't take anything that we say. We're not financial advisors. We don't deem ourselves better than anybody. We are growing people on a journey to financial freedom. So let me get that out of the way, right? But I don't want us to think that people know what these definitions and stuff mean. So I want to kind of back up. I'm gonna, guys, kind of give you a few definitions. So I want to see the role of the government. So like what Alicia just said, the government, she's basically breaking down how money is created, money creation, which is what she just said. So the government's role in this is, the government's job is to keep order, make laws, help citizens, and police. That is what, if you look it up, that is basically in a nutshell what a government's job is. So in this instance, I would say that the government would then be helping citizens. If their role is to help citizens, then I'm assuming that they're creating these glorified loans. That's what we would all assume, to help the citizens, right? Am I the only one who thinks that that's what that should be for? Okay.
It makes sense.
Okay. So then the Treasury, let me tell you what the Treasury does. The Treasury is a place where the funds of the government are deposited or kept or dispersed. So, so as Alicia just mentioned, the government, it starts with them first, and then what they do is they then give basically authorization for the Treasury to print or to create those glorified bonds. That's basically what their job is. Yes.
So say, all right, in the same instance that I was just trying to I was trying to figure out, like, say for instance, all right, so government would be like a car dealership.
Correct. The government is your car dealership. So in your instance, you're buying a car. The government is your car, is the dealership. The treasury is the finance office. When we go to the dealership, that's basically what it is. It's like a finance office. That's who approves you for your credit, right? But see, in our instance, the government gives the authorization already, right? Because they want to help make the citizens. So it's kind of reversed in that sense, because you already have the approval, because you don't need to go to anybody else. It starts with the government. However, the government, in your case, for your car, is the dealership, and then the finance office is who approves it.
So that would be the treasury, pretty much. Government. Correct. Treasury. Wow.
Okay. And then one more definition I'm gonna, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Miss, continue.
I just want to cover one more definition, because it's banking. It's a banking system. And banking is really, it's the industry of credit or other financial transactions. Now, credit is debt. Credit is debt, which is make believe. That's a whole nother episode. But I did just want to throw that out there. Alicia, thank you for letting me interrupt you, because I just felt that people needed to know, because we can't think that they know, because people don't know. They don't know. So I'm going to let you go ahead and finish. So you was talking about the IOUs.
Right. And let's just be honest. I mean, before we started talking about this, we didn't really even know, right? Like, so this isn't information that you're really learning in school. We learned about the branches of government in school, but we don't truly understand how the entire monetary system works. So this is, again, just information that we've gathered that we feel is very important to bring to real people like us to help us make real decisions about what we would like our futures to look like financially. And not just ours, but our children and our children's children. So that's why we do this. So yes, Chris, like you were just saying, you know, you got your finance office, which is the treasury, and they are literally auctioning off your credit to a bank who wants to take on your credit or your standing, right? And that's basically what happens, you know, when currency is created. Those IOUs by the big bankers are then given to the Federal Reserve, because they don't want to hold on to an IOU, and then the money is made. And then the next step would be for them to spend, the government to spend, because that's what we've all been indoctrinated to do, like Big Brother government is to spend. So they spend and they overextend themselves on public works. So it's supposed to be for us, it's supposed to be for our roads and our potholes, and, you know, to build prisons, you know, things like that, things that really are making them money on the back end. But that's a whole nother topic too. So yeah, and that would be basically like you now working, and once you know, get that paycheck, what you do with it is probably put it in the bank. So it's all one big connection, but we'll talk about what happens when you put your money in the bank on the next episode. Now, Tashina, I know you have a great video that kind of goes over what we just talked about. So now that you've heard it, right, for you audio learners, now you can see it for you visual learners. So we're gonna play that video for you guys right now.
Yes, we are. Give me 1 second. I think we are. But Alicia, I wanted to, because you mentioned it going to the Fed, but guys, and of course you're going to see it in this video, but the crazy part is that the Fed they write checks for those bonds that are deposited or sold to them on an account that has a zero balance. So that means that they have no money in the account, and they write checks to these bankers who swap the IOUs. And it's really crazy. It's crazy because they have no money in there. If you or I wrote a check, we would go to jail. Those are facts. Like, there's no way around that.
Out, absolutely.
We would be arrested for writing a check.
Not only arrested,
Chris.
but have to pay more money.
Right. Now you have fees on top of fees.
Yeah. Fines, all that.
Fees, fines. Yep, absolutely.
Work costs.
All right, so I found it here. All right, I'm about to play.
It's amazing.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. It's minimized, but we can see it.
Okay, perfect.
Here we go.
All right.
People do. It is purposely complex. John Maynard Keynes once wrote, "By this means, government may secretly and unobserved confiscate the wealth of the people, and not one man in a million will detect the theft." I believe that presented correctly, anyone can understand this system, regardless of how complex it is. So let's do a recap and break it down even more. The way the system works is that, step one, the government creates glorified IOUs. These bonds increase our national debt and put the public on the hook to pay it back. Step two, IOUs are swapped to create currency. The Treasury sells the bonds to the banks. The banks then turn around and sell our national debt at a profit to the Federal Reserve, which they probably own. The Federal Reserve then opens its checkbook that doesn't have a penny in it and buys those IOUs with IOUs that it writes, checks, on a checking account that has a zero balance. Then they give those checks to the banks and currency just sits into it, and then the whole process repeats. This results in a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury, which is really just a supply of numbers. The Treasury then deposits the numbers in the various branches of the bank. With step three, the government spends the numbers on promises, public works, social programs, and war. Then the government employees, contractors, and soldiers deposit their payments, and we get to step four, where the banks multiply the numbers by magically inventing more IOUs, reserve lending, where they...
Okay.
Perfect. That's a great segue into the next stream. Absolutely. That fractional reserve lending. And we've got some updates for you folks.
Yeah, about the fractional reserve lending. So a couple things that stood out to me in the video is, so guys, you can definitely check out, like Miss Alicia said, the Hidden Secrets of Money series. It's a 10-part series on YouTube. Mike Maloney, he's not giving us any kickback for sharing this, but this information has truly changed us, which is why we're sharing it with you. And he's a real teacher. So he is somebody that we look at because he is actually studying in the field of which practicing in the field of which he is studying and sharing with us. So that is why we follow him. But a couple of things that stood out just in that short part. So the glorified IOUs increases our national debt, right? So we are on the hook for paying back something that we don't know anything about, because we don't know what they're doing it for. And even if they're supposed to be doing our potholes and stuff like that, look, my street has potholes on it right now. Like, how can I get my bid in for that, right? And then he said, it's a bond. The root word of bondage is bond. That means that you are enslaved. As long as you have that, the IOUs is credit, basically. It's saying that I'm gonna give you this credit and then I expect you to pay it back with interest, And it's crazy because if it's just numbers on the screen, then I will never have enough money to pay it back because there's not enough money to pay it back because it's just numbers on the screen. It's crazy. Go ahead, guys. Like, it's crazy.
Yes.
Chris, what you got?
No, I just finesse. That's a mean finesse move right there. Just did an abracadabra and just
and it just goes in a cycle.
for 3 to 5 years, like, or how long else you can pay this off. Like, if you don't pay this off, it's gonna be passed down to whoever else. That's crazy. Because I'm sure it pertains to houses and everything else, mortgages and all of that. We're just talking about a car perspective, but I just wanted to break it down because that's crazy even for a car.
Absolutely.
Even the stimulus, though. Think about the stimulus, right? The stimulus did help the people. So the government did their role and they made it transparent to say, okay, hey, we're going to print this money and you know what it's being printed for is going to come to you to help you out because we have this pandemic, right? But those are dollars that we won't have to pay back, but like probably 11, 12 generations, right? I mean, think about that. 11, 12 generations, because we are paying today for what people before us did because we came into the world in debt. Yeah. Go ahead, Alicia.
And let's be clear that 60% of the stimulus money that was printed is going to banks anyway. You can look those numbers up. 60% of that stimulus package is going to the bank.
So we're going to cover that in the next episode, guys. We're going to get into the actual banking. Because really, like I said, when I first guys heard this, when I seen that episode, first of all, I watched it multiple times because I could not just wrap my head around that's what was happening. Like, is this real life? Like, is this really? It's one of those Twilight Zone things. And it is. It's crazy. We are enslaved. And the more we ignore the information, the more you are paying for your own enslavement.
Absolutely. And trust me, the plug on the printing press is going to get pulled very soon.
And what you gonna do? So guys, we're gonna wrap. Go ahead.
I said the plug on the printing press will be pulled very soon.
That's a lot of P's in that sentence.
I'm sorry.
No, but it's a lot of validation. That's a very viral. You know what I mean? There's resources.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
The question is, what happens to you? What are the implications of your livelihood, of your life, of your future when cash in currency is no longer a means?
It's gold, baby. Your necklace is blinging and hurting my eye because, it's gold, baby. That's what you do. That's what you do.
Absolutely.
Chris, you want to close us out? Any closing remarks, Alicia?
I would just be careful with your currency. I would definitely protect it. Don't spend it if you don't need to spend it. Definitely put it into a safer store of value, something that's going to allow it to grow and appreciate. Don't just let it sit in the bank where you're losing to inflation and bank fees and the fact that it's a put and take account. You're going to put it in, but you're definitely going to take it out. So you're not going to hold on to it anyway. Put it somewhere safely in an offshore account.
In an offshore account. Chris?
Hey, man, research this information, please. I know it's a lot, but, if you can research the hidden secrets of money, maybe it'll give you a better perspective where you can, get where we coming from. Please research this information. Reach out to your loved ones. Health and wealth, man. Do something with yourself. Don't just sit in the house all day flicking through the channels, man. Please just push up something, bro. Holla at me. Ow.
Oh,
Guys, before we leave you, we are going to leave you with a short video just to kind of put into perspective how real and serious this is. So just stay tuned and like and subscribe and share this video. And
People in the Americas knew when a ship arrived because they could smell it. If the wind was blowing from offshore, people would know that for sure. Maybe a day before it came. It would be sort of like a septic tank coming towards you. That's what it would smell like.
The sale itself would happen either on board the ship or a warehouse nearby.
Let the scramble commence.
Slaves would be inspected by prospective buyers who would poke and prod and open their mouths and all these things to try to assess the physical capacity of the slave. Once you get into the era of print, there were always advertisements in the newspapers. The colonial newspaper is a small thing. It's 4 pages maybe. And on that last page, property is being advertised: land, horses, wagons, and human beings. And they would use adjectives to sort of entice buyers. Lusty slaves, you know, a fresh cargo of prime Africans from such and such a region.
So how much wealth does one person represent? For men, price rose with age up until around 25 or 30, and then it started to decline.
Once we get to the 19th century, the cost of an enslaved person would approximate the cost of an automobile in today's dollars. To own 50 or 100 enslaved people is to be a very wealthy person indeed.
For women, it's a little bit different. Price is correlated with perceived years of remaining fertility, or is linked to perceived sexual attractiveness. One of the attractions of slavery for enslavers, particularly men, is the sexual access that they believe it gives them. The role of violent, forced sexuality in the trade. We know that it was quite extensive. I think we have to come to grips with the fact that that was really in the minds of enslavers and other whites, and was really in the practices of slavery.